What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I'm gonna walk you through step by step, the best that I can, on how I built my coffee table. I was extremely inspired by the Restoration Hardware Nordcasa coffee table, but there was two issues why I didn't just buy it. One, it was out of my budget, and two, I needed a square coffee table. So I decided, asked my husband, talked to him, can we build this? We decided to build it ourselves. Now, before I get started, I do want to warn all of you professionals out there that I am not a professional. I probably did every single thing wrong, but because I shared this over on my vlogs and also over on Instagram, a lot of you guys requested to have me make a video explaining exactly what I did. So I just want to warn you before I get started. However, I'm just going to share my process and how I did this with my husband, how we built this ourselves. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first thing that I did was obviously gather the materials that I needed. I used pine wood. I also ordered an inexpensive jig tool on Amazon to help me make pocket holes. Now, I will say I did go with the affordable option. I did not invest in like the better one. It was definitely, you get what you pay for. It wasn't the best quality. However, it did the job. We were able to use it. We're actually making a second coffee table for out on our patio, and we'll be using that tool again. But I also picked up some pocket hole screws. After doing my research, there were a lot of YouTube channels that recommended pocket hole screws because they're meant for pocket holes. So I did get those for wood, so wood pocket hole screws. Okay, so I'm about to start distressing it a little bit more, but one mistake that we made is screws coming through. So I'm using this little tool right here just to cut it off because it is rustic. We don't really have to worry about it being perfect. So I'm just gonna snip them off. I needed a 38 by 38 inch coffee table. So I got three 9-inch in width pine wood. They were like 9 by, I think they were 8 feet long, planks. And then I got one 11-inch width, still 8 feet long plank. And I bought it at the hardware store. I think a lot of hardware stores, if you buy the wood with them, they will cut the wood for you. Before I had them cut the wood, I went to rh.com and looked at the height of what their coffee tables were and just kind of went off of this. So I had them cut it 38 inches long, and then the width of each board will make it 38 inches wide, making a square, and then 14 inches, I believe, or 17 inches high. I had my pieces cut. However, this is where it got tricky because they don't cut wood at an angle. You do need a miter saw or a table saw to do this. So I had to go over to my friend's house and use her miter saw. Now, her miter saw it wasn't as wide as we needed it. So this is where we did things they were not safe what we did. We flipped the wood, we did all kinds of stuff to make it work. I'm not gonna go into detail on how we did that because you guys are gonna do it the safe way. We did not. We definitely did not. However, what we did was a 10-degree angle on the top and on the bottom. Now with the angles, you want it to be the exact same. So when you're making your angles, you want the top and the bottom to angle the same way. And this is going to allow the wood, once you have it flush with the top of the table, it's going to be flush with the bottom of the table, and that's really important. So make sure when you're angling, you go the same way on each end of the board. The next thing that we did after we had the table all cut and ready to go, I started distressing, and then I realized that that wasn't gonna work because I needed the boards to be as flush as possible Also at the hardware store, they don't cut down the length of the wood because it could split. If you are a professional or know how to do this at home, you can have like a cleaner line. So once I realized that I didn't want to distress the wood because as I was sanding, it was kind of going off the side. I didn't want to compromise the wood anymore. So I thought the best thing to do at this point was to drill our pocket holes and glue the pieces together. All right, Zach, what'd you do?
So we got these all those same, well, these are all the top. So
this is the bottom of the top. So it's gonna look, we have one board that's bigger.
Larger. So it did ends, middle, middle, ends, middle, ends.
And we don't know if that's like any...
It'll be fine. It'll be sturdy. Positive thoughts, you know?
Positive thoughts, positive vibes.
Positive vibes.
I think it's gonna look so good.
Yeah.
So what we did is we drilled all of our pocket holes, and then after we did this, I put a layer of Gorilla Glue wood glue on each plank, both sides, let it dry completely, and then did another layer of glue, put them together, and then screwed them with the wet glue. After my research, evidently, if you let the first layer of wood glue dry and then add another layer, it's supposed to adhere even stronger. So that's what we did, and that thing is sturdy. It is very, very sturdy. After I let the wood glue dry completely, I then went in with my wood filler so I could make the top of the coffee table as flush as I could. I didn't really want the seams from each board. I did want to fill those in to make it as seamless as possible. Now, I will say one mistake that I did notice when I put my wood pieces together is you can tell from the side that there's planks because I didn't line up the grooves of the wood. I do have some of them going downward and some of them upward. So if you want it to be perfect and make it look like it's one big plank, make sure you watch out for that because I didn't even think of that. And that is one mistake that I did do. Now, one thing I was really hoping for, I really wanted the top of the wood to kind of almost be seamless and come down. What I mean by that is the side that showed the planks cut, I wanted that to be the side that came down with the legs. When we put the legs on, they don't lay super flush. As you can see, I don't know if you can see in this angle, but it kind of goes down and then ups and drops down. Here's my dilemma. So I've gotten this down like quite a bit, but here's the problem. Should we mark it where I continue to like sand it down so it's somewhat more flush? Because if you look closely,
you need to not be sanding right here though, right?
Yeah.
You need to be sanding this little nub
and then
end nub.
So you think I should just keep sanding? But then is it going to be flush? Is it going to be, or is
No, but the more you sand across it evenly, this is just going to stay the same.
I know, but then is it going to be like like a level table? Because here's the issue. Look, if we put it right here, it's much closer, but I wanted it to look more fluid, like the Restoration Hardware one.
Do you think that will matter?
Should we just do it like this because it makes more sense?
I don't think it will matter once it's on the ground, because you're going to see the tabletop, and then this will still be that.
I know, but see, okay, like I wanted it to look like a little bit more continuous. Like I feel like it looks better right here, but otherwise I'm going to be sanding and I don't even know, there's no guarantee it's even going to turn out. But right here we could glue it and screw it right now.
How did you get it so bent?
It's the wood, I think, because the wood is
yeah.
not flat.
Yeah, because you're right. It's not going to be as level.
So I wonder if we just do it the other way. I mean, it is what it is, you know?
Let's do it the other way.
Like this.
Yeah.
Like, I think once I get past...
Once you do it and distress it, it's going to be fine. Is this flat?
Yeah, because then we could...
I
Well, I
think we
need
do it
to
this
sand
way.
these, but
What?
then I need to sand the filler, but then we can put them on right now.
Sand filler.
Alright. Because I did have some warping in the wood wasn't kind of going up against the wood flush and had major gaps. So I did have to put them alongside the plank that was just one piece of wood instead of multiple stacked up. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying my best to describe it, but it didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it. However, that was in my own mind, and I'm sure a lot of people won't notice or really care. It just was something that I was hoping for that didn't really work out. After I had the legs attached to the top of the table, I noticed I did have a little bit of gapping in the wood. So I took some wood caulking and just kind of went around the seam of the legs to the table just to secure a little bit more. I really wanted this piece to be secure and hefty if we want to put our feet on our coffee table. We just wanted it to be as secure as possible. That being said, the caulk does not stain, or at least the one I got. So I went over the top of that with wood filler to be able to stain it on top of it.
How's our table going?
It's going good. The caulking, look at that. It's so sturdy now.
That's awesome. How's your wine?
It's really good. My favorite? Nah.
It was fine. $5 for a bottle.
Cheap date. Once I had the table, all the planks connected, the legs on, it was nice and sturdy, it was dry. I let it cure for 24 to 48 hours depending on what items I was using and what it recommended. Then I started the distressing. And this took forever, but it was well worth the hard work. It really, really was. I really wanted to really take my time. I wanted the coffee table to look as aged as it possibly can. Now I realize it's not going to look like an actual aged coffee table because it's not. It's new, but I wanted it to be the best that I possibly could, and making it at home, and wanted to really give it my best effort. I did the best that I could, and I used a few tools to achieve this. Throughout the whole distressing process, I had the restoration hardware image pulled up so I could kind of look at it from time to time and see what more I needed to do. However, I will say the more that I started doing my own process, the more I stopped looking at that image for like trying to replicate it. I really kind of took it on myself and really gave it my own twist and really just went off of my own gut and the things that I liked. This attachment right here was such a game changer when it came to my distressing. This is a wire brush attachment that you just put on your drill, and what I did was I would go clockwise kind of down some boards or however I wanted it. I even went back and forth, and then I did go with the natural grain of the wood. I didn't go against it. I really wanted it to look as if it aged, and it aged along the grain like real wood would. Real wood would. I didn't want to make it unrealistic and really obvious, although like I said, it's hard to achieve that. But this tool was such a game changer. I had so much fun with this tool. So I went clockwise one way down, and then I went counterclockwise the way back, just to really give it a lot of distressing. And then on some areas, I just held it and let it go deeper and deeper and deeper. And this allowed for the natural, I don't know what it is in the wood, but it's, you know, where the lines are. I'm like butchering this. I'm so sorry. I'm doing the best that I can to explain it. I really just flew by the seat of my pants with this project, but it did allow those to kind of stand strong and the soft wood to go deeper and deeper, allowing it to look aged. It was really like, I really liked that look. The next thing that I did was took a chiseling tool and took out a few huge chunks out of the wood. I really wanted it to look like restored wood and give it a little bit more character. So I loved this look. I put a couple in there and it was super simple. It didn't, take much. I would kind of take a hammer, chisel it down, and then I would go off the top and stop it so that it didn't split down the whole wood or go too far. I did kind of stop it and then just pry it up, and I loved that. And then I did sand over the top of it. Another thing that I did to distress the wood is I took a screwdriver and pressed it down and dragged it along the hard lines of the wood. I know I'm butchering this. I don't know much about wood, clearly, But this allowed a little bit of a different look, and I will show you guys a close-up of that. And then the last thing that I did to distress the wood, which I think made the biggest difference, and this is truly what I think made it look a little bit more aged, was I sanded, and then I sanded, and then I sanded. I sanded a lot. So I started with a 60 grit, and this is going to really sand a lot. Now the problem with 60 grit is you do have to make sure you go with like a 120 grit at the end to soften it up, because you will see the lines. Now the sander that I used was the game changer when it came to sanding the wood, because I used a sander that was in the shape of a mouse, and like a little triangle like mouse. They call it a mouse sander. And this was game changer because it allowed me to use the corner to get into those grooves and get really some fine detailing in there. And then also the flat end, if I needed that, I could just use the back of that as well. So having this sander was game changer. I was also able to use the whole sides of each side for the wood, and I felt like this sander gave me different angles to work with, which I think really was, like I said, game changer when it came to distressing, because I was able to give my wood those wavy looks as if it aged over time. When it came to the sandpaper, I used them all. I bought the variety pack, so it had like a 60 in there, a couple 80s, a couple 100s, and 120s. And I really did kind of alternate through the 60 and 80 in the beginning, and then especially around the edges, because I was trying to round them out a little bit. I didn't want them so sharp, so I rounded them out a little bit, and those papers, or that grit, really helped with the sides. And then when it came to the fine details, I worked with the 100 grit. That was my favorite grit out of all of it. The 100 really helped me with all of the fine detailing when it came to the details of the wood. And then I just kind of went over the whole thing once I was done with the 120 grit. So what I ended up using for stain, if you follow me over on Instagram and the vlog, you know this wasn't the first stain that I put on this. I actually had to sand down the first stain and start all over again. I know, it was horrible. It was horrible, but I just didn't want to settle, and I wanted the look that I wanted. So I'm gonna go over the stains. I have them over here. So I first went over the entire table with wood conditioner. A lot of the times I would skip this, but I didn't skip it this time. Like I said, I really wanted to do this project the right way and not take any shortcuts. So I went with this Minwax pre-stain wood conditioner, and it's supposed to help with giving it an even layer, prevent blotchiness, and I really think that this did the job. It is really, really good. The next thing that I did was I started with this pickled oak wood stain, and this gave it more of like a sun bleached look. I really wanted to kind of neutralize the wood, because after the wood conditioner it did start to look a little orangey, and I definitely didn't want that look. So I put this stain over the top of it just to neutralize it. However, you can do this with really watered down white paint. I just didn't have any, so I just picked this up when I got the other stain. And then the color that I use, that is the current color right now, is called Special Walnut by Minwax. And this is such a good color. I loved it. And then I just topped it off with this polyurethane clear satin top coat, basically. So this just finished it off and gave it a more professional look. All right, you guys, and that is basically all the steps that I took to create this Restoration Hardware DIY Nordcasa coffee table. I am absolutely in love with it. I can't believe I built it myself. I am, aside from my husband helping me put the pocket holes and kind of putting it together, I did all the distressing myself, and I'm extremely proud of it. I love it. It is such a gorgeous piece. If you decide to make this, make sure you leave me a comment down below Also, if you have any other questions, leave them down in the comments. I believe I went over everything, I hope. Like I said, this was the project didn't go as planned, and I didn't really think I was gonna make a video on it, but a lot of you guys requested it, so I decided I will try my best to walk you through the entire process of how I did it. And in the end, the total that I spent, not including my mistakes, was $250, give and take some change. That was a lot of savings compared to the Restoration Hardware Nordcasa price. However, like I said, this project, I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into this project, and it definitely paid off in the end, but I am not gonna say it was an easy project. It was very, very time consuming, but very therapeutic. I actually really enjoyed making this. I just felt like I needed to get it done because I wanted to share it with you guys. I'm so happy with how it turned out, and I hope you guys love it, and I will see you guys in a couple days with another. Bye.